Hey guys, Ian here, NOLA Designs. I got the phone call today from Dean Honda in Pittsburgh that the demo Pilot Trail Sport was available to come and check out. So I have driven down to there and currently checking it out. Um, Really cool setup. I love the dash. I like the buttons still are really good. The wireless charging seems to be somewhat efficient, functionally at least, so it's good. Um, Ride's really nice and quiet. I do enjoy the giant sunroof. Sitting here messing with the uh, all-wheel drive and everything, and so one of the big things that I do constantly in my truck is uh, I end up, putting it in whatever terrain mode I want, locking it, putting it in sport, and then locking it in gear. You can do that in this, which is super cool. The camera system does turn on the moment you put it in trail, which I think is probably something that most people have already seen at this point. So you can get your trail setting, and then if I go back to normal, then it actually stays on, which is interesting. But you can leave it there, and then you can just tap the button on the stock, and you can cycle through your cameras, which is nice, and then it goes back to where you were. So pretty cool. USB ports are abounding in here. The seats are comfortable. I think I'll be able to get a good position. You are able to raise the front of the seat quite a bit, so that's cool. You can also lower it immensely. This is very, so for perspective, I'm 6 feet and I just lowered it all the way, and I'm not wildly reclined, and I'm pretty much like dead even with the dash at this point. So you can definitely make this thing feel sporty, which I like. I like being able to sit in things rather than on top of them. I think that's probably one of the allures to like a unibody vehicle that I like. Yeah, I don't know. Otherwise, it's going to be super cool. All right, good. See, now I have 3 kids, so that mirror right there, that mirror is the world to me, because then I can look back in the back and I can yell at them when they're getting crazy and see who's doing what. So, um, keep digging for features. All right, so for anybody who's actually going to use this as a family hauling vehicle, I will say I like the fact that the cleats for the car seats are just available and hanging out. That's huge. Captain's chairs work well. These aren't ratcheting. The driver's seat, we don't have any ratcheting stuff anymore. That's the way at least the Ridgeline was set up. So either way, works out nice. I can fit my oldest kid in the back over here, and then I can put my 2 younger kids in these 2 seats, so that'll be nice. The back seat's actually snugger than I would have expected it to be. I thought I'd have more room back there, but in the back, I'm definitely not drowning in space back here. I think if we were to go 3 wide, I would have to, it'd be a really tight fit going 3 wide back here. I don't know how I'd feel about that. You'd be definitely shoulder to shoulder. I'm actually kind of surprised at the amount that the wheel wells stick out. This is really deep. Like, you've got a lot of room over here to put your shoulder on, your cups and vents, and USB port obviously, and then you get some tie downs if you were to fold your seat down and things like that. So definitely interesting back here. I mean, I feel like every 3rd row, unless you're buying like a giant Suburban, every 3rd row SUV is a little snug in the back. So either way, you can fit back here. I like all the little piano black touches on the doors. Is nice. Like, these are clean, so I'm happy about that. And stitching interior looks really good. And this is what it looks like if you're in the back. The display is actually really nice. I'm happy with that. It's very responsive, which I may have mentioned earlier. Kids mirror, definitely liking a lot of those things. I took it for a drive. 10 speed's actually really smooth, and it seems almost like the vehicle's really willing to start out in first frequently. I feel like with my Ridgeline, it's always starting in second, unless the hill's like incredibly steep. So that's something to maybe keep in mind, but so far it looks great. Hey, look at this demo. It's already falling apart. No, just kidding. It just didn't get... Let's see what's in here since this panel popped out. Not a whole lot. Looks like some electronics for the seats necessarily. We'll push that back in. Yeah, we'll try and snap this back in maybe. I don't know.
But here's the lock.
There we go.
So I think this whole panel comes out.
Yeah, it does. So yeah, in the back you've got You can pop this out and your jack and everything's in here.
That's nice.
Hiding in there. And you get a 12-volt outlet, which is nice back here. And then that holds true. You can flip that over. The internet said you could flip it over.
Yeah, nice.
You can flip it over.
Very nice.
Boom.
I like that.
Yeah. It's a nice setup, really.
But you see, I took a picture, but you see it's a really nice access to run wiring from the hood to the
Yeah.
cab.
Yeah, I saw that.
If
There's
you have a wired one.
Yeah, it looks like it's got a good bit going on, so.
Maybe it does. Maybe it should attach to the
I don't
back
think
and
it
just
does,
hold
though.
It doesn't,
So,
yeah.
I don't think it does. So, back here, we're discussing this all-weather mat thing is like a weird trifold thing that's kind of terrible, honestly. I don't know how else to put it. It really doesn't work all that well because now these are exposed unless you flip this down. So I don't know what the point of this mat is. I'd prefer to have the seat back protectors like this, that Velcro on or
Those are
strap
a big
on.
upgrade over the
Yeah.
last gen ones.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a big move forward. But yeah, this weird trifold thing, not feeling it. All right, guys, so I switched to the lapel mic. I'm hoping that it'll still pick me up well since I'm next to traffic here. But so I didn't realize this intake here, now that I can pan down. So the intake here actually goes down across and runs across the top of the box. This is all part of the air cleaning assembly, which is crazy. And then it's actually coming back around and in. So it's one of the more obscure setups I've ever seen for an intake setup, but it's here. So you actually have air coming in, across, through, back into here, down, and then into the actual plenum for the motor. So that's interesting. I noticed that they did not give you direct ground access on the battery. Again, you've got good positive access, which is good, but you do get a ground over here, which is kind of funny because Randy and I did this with the M6, M10. I mean, this is exact setup. Give yourself a good ground. So that's in place now, which is great. You've definitely got a little bit of the electronics hanging out here, which I think could be one of those things in the future. Might get a little bit covered in mud and everything else. But yeah, there's some room for activities in here. You definitely got some room over here. We might have to design something to set up in this area, which would be great for running your light controllers or anything else that you want to add. So that'll be cool. Definitely looks doable to have a nice set of ditch light brackets. Will be definitely doable on here, so that's cool. I have no idea what this little gap right here is for. That's new, but it's to make sure you get air into the back, which is pretty cool. That's neat. So really liking the setup so far, and I'm gonna keep poking around and see what else So I don't know if this is standard, and I don't think it is, but it's a nice touch at least. This black hood thing, it gives it a little Jeepy Moab vibe, which is cool. I mean, realistically, I don't think you're probably gonna need it in most cases, but it is neat to have. And then I was looking at the wheels, and so I run a set of 17s on my Ridgeline, and these are an 18, and there is absolutely, it's a finger width of room between the wheel and the brakes. So they put some monster brakes on this Pilot. It is, yeah, they're not small. So you're definitely going to be running an 18. You're not going to be able to run a 17 on the new ones. It's just not going to clear. So some fun fact. As far as the wheel well's concerned, there's definitely some room, some real estate here. I'm already looking to see if I remove this, if it could be cut out or pushed back or whatever. It feels like there's probably not metal directly behind it, but it's definitely interesting to see, and something to add to what do we got going on in the rear? Okay, it's a little rear action. It is just a shock. It looks like it's just a shock in the rear. Let's see. Fall under here. Oh, it is. Okay, let's fix the camera real quick. There it is. It's trying to recenter on me. So we actually have a shock and
spring setup in the rear. There is, oh, this is cool. So there's a lot going on back here actually. This is definitely a way different setup than what is on like even the Ridgeline. You've got an upper link, a lower link, you've got a forward link, and then this one here in the rear. And they've given you lots of clearance. Where is this camera going? It's just drifting. Hang on. Yeah, they're two separate pieces. So yeah, so now that we can see this, oh, totally. The rear can definitely be modified easier. So yeah, so it's a spring and a shock. So this is going to make it so much easier to modify this rear suspension. It's going to be great. The links are definitely set up totally different, which is cool. You still get your rear jack point, and oh, I'm underneath the exhaust, so I'm getting drift on. But also looks like there'll be a nice, everything's mounted to this subframe, which is cool, which means we'll be able to do easily be able to do like a spacer lift setup on this, and really improve the rear flexion in the rear. So I'm super pumped about that. This is going to be cool. All right, since we're talking about suspension stuff, in the front, it is just a, come back camera, come back. There you go. There, trying to keep this thing in check. But so in the front, it's just a McPherson strut setup, nothing fancy. And then I can't really see back here either, but definitely some room for some modifications to be taking place in the So we've done the kid seat test. We got Jay in the back, and then Gabe's driving. We're gonna go test out these cameras, see how the trailsport cameras actually work as good as we want them to work. So we will see. So we're just making some comments about the finish quality on things, like, you know, it's like the plastic trim's not snapped together. We had that panel fall out in the back. Yeah, the original. There we go. But either way, I think it's just kind of the whole, this is a demo. It's one of the first ones off the line for them to be able to get in, show people what it looks like and everything else. So yeah, so far I definitely like the interior. The armrest feels to be of reasonable height for me. I don't know how I feel about, I do like the captain's chair's arms on the seats and the Ridgeline, especially the ratcheting one. I use it a lot, so we will be something to get used to. Okay, so earlier I referenced the Jeep-like hood sticker that was on this, and I think it didn't look bad from the outside, but now that we're inside and we're discussing this thing some more, you can actually still see a lot of glare from the sticker. Like, the sticker's not matte enough to make this work. So just something to keep in mind.
We're at the trailhead.
We're at the trailhead now.
All right, so we just kicked into trail mode, and you can see on the dash here we have two camera views. This is actually our front hood view and our bird's eye. We have a second option here to look at the side mirrors. So you can do one or the other, which is actually 1,000,000% better than the current gen because we have nothing. A couple notes is that there's obvious distortion in bird's eye. That makes a lot of sense with what we have. It's basically just taking the front and rears stitched with the side mirrors. So we're gonna give this a shot on this little trail we have here right by the dealership. So we're in trail mode. We're gonna take it nice and easy up this little grade on gravel.
It's actually struggling more than I expected it to. It's a lot more wheel spin.
I mean, remember, these are the stock tires. Even though they're more aggressive, they're still fairly stock Continentals.
Yeah.
Last time I was in this trail, we're gonna get muddy. They have a car wash there, right?
They do.
So that grade was fine. This is not much of a clearance challenge here, but a little bit of mud. You're gonna get a little bit of articulation coming up here on this left side vertical feature. We're just gonna keep it in the line here and see how the body flexes. Nice and easy. So there's a little bit of uphill climb in a mud rutted trail.
It's interesting. I can actually feel the all-wheel drive kind of shoving along periodically. That's a nice. This is very, very greasy looking from what I can see.
Yeah, this is not great trail conditions. We just had a light rain and snow this week here in Pittsburgh. But this is nothing out of the ordinary. A very, I'd say, usual trail conditions you'll see here. I think we're good to keep on going, Dean. What do you think?
Oh yeah, we're good. We've already committed to what we're doing. We've already taken it on a. So we were offered a test drive, and so we've found out that there's this little section over here, and so this is where we've chosen to do our test drive because we know the area, and the sales guy didn't say not to take it for a test drive. So it's kind of what we chose to do. This looks like it's a little.
I don't want to scratch it.
Yeah, we don't want to scratch anything.
Yeah, so here at this point, let's take a look at the trail cameras here. So at this point, if I was to be in my Gen 3, I wouldn't really have any sense of the road. We're not going to push it here because we have some foliage. We don't want to scratch this really beautiful new Pilot. So what we're going to actually do is we're going to take a little bit of a back turn and see if we can point our rear into this other trailhead here. So the trail cams do stay on, but we see we're going to try to access this other trail. This is probably the same from the rear camera we're seeing, but the top view is actually very helpful here to really get the second perspective of imagine you had very tight obstacles on the side, or you want to stay in the trail. I actually think this is a great improvement on the trail. Ian, what do you think?
I think it's decent. I honestly would be interested to know, backing up, if you could do, if there was a way to switch to just the mirror cameras backing up would be, because the bird's eye is distorted enough to where it's improvement, but it's definitely one of those things where you can do a standard full camera or the bird's eye.
Interesting.
And, okay, but you can't do the mirrors only. I was just
not
curious.
on reverse.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to. I'm going to do a 3-point here. We're going to go up the other trail here because I think this is good. We're going to check the turning radius on this guy. So I do like it's projected on both the top bird's eye and the front camera here.
Yep.
So if you want to see the side camera here, this is actually very interesting. So this is a really great view, actually.
Yeah, this view is very useful.
So now we're going to go back in reverse to turn the front back around to the other side. And I do think, like Ian said, having some view into the wheel clearance would be very important here to actually make this tight turn. I'm doing a very horrible job of following the trail, but that's kind of intentional. See how we do with lining things up. So
it's yelling at us for the bushes. There's not
bushes are definitely not an issue here.
It's definitely squirming a little bit and applying the ABS as needed.
All right, so we're gonna keep it on the side view cam as we go up the trail here to get some perspective. Just a little bit more of a muddy rut. We'll assess this as we go. What do you think, Ian? I don't know if I'm taking it.
I didn't say I wouldn't.
Yeah. I would be completely comfortable taking that with our vehicles.
We might have to do this before we
might
go
have
to lunch.
Come back, yeah, before lunch. This is a nice little fun feature. But this is about as far as we're taking on this trail. But once again, it would be useful to have those side cameras in reverse, because usually on a trail you don't have too much risk of having occlusions in the back. It's really more important to see your wheel clearance, I think, on these tight turns. So we're gonna kick it back here and then go back onto the trail. Get out of this little trail experiment. It's nice that it's so close to the dealership.
It is incredibly close to the dealership.
They will have to maybe, maintenance this trail a little bit and offer it for their test drivers as well.
Could be a thing. We have hill descent too. We could use hill descent.
Okay.
Yeah, we got hill descent.
How do we kick it in?
I don't know.
I think it's right here. So there's a feature right here. I think this is hill descent mode.
Yep, it should just. There you go. Hill descent is
control
on.
So With that, it also has stability.
I think you just set it.
It's on standby, control standby.
How do you set it? Cannot.
That was hidden cruise control. So we're gonna try this again. So we're gonna do hill descent control on. So my foot is off of the gas right now.
I think it's just set to 2 miles an hour.
Which is here, so it's locked in on 3. It looks like.
Yeah.
So turn green, and let's see if it lets us go any further. This is very interesting because we're doing hill descent control
And
on a muddy rut
situation.
So let's, as we go here, we're gonna look at the wheel camera to try and line up to our mudded ruts here to see if we get any value out of that.
It's not bad.
So this is me not doing any brake right now. It is all on the hill descent control.
Definitely pushing the factory Continentals to their limit.
Yeah, so I'm definitely getting wheel slip here in this mud rut, but that's okay. Okay, we pulled out there. That's good. We pulled ourselves out using the hill descent. That's really impressive, actually. This is going to be a challenge for the hill descent. We have a feature. We're going to come up on our right side now. Ian, if you want to get some view of the trail coming up here.
Yeah, I was actually going to say too. You guys want to let me? All right, so I've gotten out of the vehicle and I need to get across this before I fall. Okay, tree, and we're going to go ahead and record a little coming through. Definitely a little greasy, but we're going to come back through in our setups here and see how we do in a minute. It's definitely drifting a little bit. Well guys, this brings us to the end of our video. I'm really excited about the platform, looking forward to what we'll be able to do with it. I want to thank Dean Honda for letting us take the Pilot out and get it a little bit dirty and being a good sport about it afterward, and just running it through the car wash. I think that's really says something about them and their dealership, so looking forward to being able to maybe work with them in the future on other vehicles. And until then, you guys have a great one, and we'll see you. I did notice there's no transmission cooler hanging out the front like there is on the Ridgeline on this one. So that's an interesting fact. I saw that earlier, and yeah, there's definitely some kind of teeter-tottering holes here. So we'll see how the suspension flexes out in the rear. Carrying tire. Carrying tire again. And we're free.
So that descent you just saw was completely under hill descent control. I did not touch the brake once, and it pulled me the whole way down, including that rutted feature. With that little bit of wheel slip, it compensated. So I just want to make that note so you know. It held right around that 2 to 3 mile per hour speed all the way through till it was flat.